being here, Robert. Our next speaker is the Executive Director of the Louisiana High School Athletic Association. He's in his 11th year directing prep sports in our state, and he previously served in the same capacity in the Nevada Interscholastic Athletic Association. He steered the organization through some very challenging times. I think that's a safe word. And he's a former professional baseball pitcher, having reached AAA in his playing career. So he's ready to throw strikes here today. How's that? But I'll also tell you that I joke with him all the time because I think he's got the toughest job in the state. You're never going to make people happy with whatever you do, but it's a job that he's accepted and he performs in excellent fashion on a daily basis. And it's great to have him here today from Baton Rouge. Please give a warm welcome to LHSAA Executive Director Eddie Bonine. Eddie?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces in this room and some not so many familiar faces, but I see a couple over here that I've been around and I've seen for, I guess, beginning my 11th year. In 2015, when the very first convention that I had, a January convention, it was, needless to say, it was a little turmoilish, if that's a word. Looking over here, there's that word. But I had a gentleman walk up to me and caught me as I come out of the restroom and said, "Mr. Bonine, I didn't introduce myself." It was this gentleman right here, Robert Valdez. Said he wanted to introduce himself, and he is the swim coach at St. James Parish. And I thought to myself, my God, that's a swim coach. That's a big man to be coaching swim in the state of Louisiana. What do the football coaches look like? And from that point on, that's been the inside joke with Robert. If you don't know Robert, he is a quality human being. And when I heard that he had been offered and accepted the position at St. Aug, I thought it's a perfect fit for him. And I think that has shown up, Robert. So again, congratulations on the success of the beginning of this year. As many of you know, when I speak, I normally don't bring notes. I can get off track. So I'm going to try to remain on track because I have a new Director of Communications. And I got this with me today. So I'm going to be glancing down briefly and trying to stay on task. But most importantly, the LHSAA is in a good spot. If you follow what we do and how we do it, at the end of the day, this is all about the kids, and we do that and we keep that. We have a lot of coaches that do that across the state. We have over 10,000 coaches in the state of Louisiana that belong to the Louisiana High School Coaches Association, Robert being one of those. Mr. Valdez also served on many of the coaches' council, any committee you can have, and presently is sitting on the executive committee of the LHSAA, representing the Coaches Association as an officer. So Mr. Valdez also will have the honor and privilege to evaluate me come June. So Robert, thank you so much, and that lunch I did buy, so you're good right there. But no, in all seriousness, we're in a good spot, and I'm just going to give you a real brief overview, 30,000-foot view, if you will, of the association. It's a principals association. This year we have 404 schools in our association. Last year we had 409, and some of those were charter schools that have come. Those schools kind of come and go, so we're down to 401. We had 102,000 participants last year with those 10,000 coaches. This year, right now, I think the numbers are right at, here we go, 84,031 students that are registered. Keep in mind that's just for fall. That right now we have in fall sports. With winter and spring, that registration process starts here the next week or so for those sports. So we'll probably get well up over 100,000 again. And as a principals association, we have 401 principals. That's who I answer to through the 28-member executive committee. And on that executive committee, not only are there principals represented in every classification across the state, but we also have representation from the Department of Education. We have 2 representations from the Coaches Association. We have representation from the Superintendents Association, the School Boards Association, and we have 2 seated legislators on the Senate, a senator, as well as a state a representative that sits on the community, and we meet 4 to 5 times a year. So we have that accountability in place for all of the schools that we represent. That I have the privilege of working for. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Kim mentioned going into my 11th year. And that is what we have in place as a mechanism to do what we do every day. The principals are the ones who put in the rules. They're the ones that do all the meetings. We have that in January of every year. Anybody's welcome to come in this room who'd like to show up to come to that and make sure that can happen for you. Ken has been to a number of those. And that's where everything happens. If they don't like a rule, they change the rule. If they want to make a new rule, they make a new rule. depending upon if it's a bylaw, it takes a simple majority. If it's a constitutional item, it takes that 66.6%. It's pretty simple math. At the end of the day, my job, my staff's job, is to enforce the rules that are written. And we take the shots for that, for being able to do that. But that's why we were hired, that's what I do. It's no different than the legislative process in our state. Legislators make laws for anybody, any particular entity to enforce. They expect that enforcement, and that's what we do at this particular point. The Officials Association, I might say, we're up about 7%. We're gaining numbers. I see Mr. Benny in the room, and one of our officials, and been officiating for a long time, but officiating is coming up. It's on the nation. It's been a push to get more officials. I apologize if I left somebody out in the room who's also officiating, that gentleman over there. But the point is, officiating, we are getting some people back, but we know that in that first 3 years, it's a crucial part of keeping those officials, and sometimes they just don't want to stick around because of the abuse that they take, whether it be verbally, from the coaches, whether it be from the fans, or from media, whoever it is. They don't stick around too long, but we are attaining and retaining right now. So that's good news in regards to what we have overall as officials. We go back to and I want this number, that's okay, we're on a recording here. This is an important number. Under some of the scrutiny we have right now through the legislature is about how many student athletes aren't eligible. And in my tenure here, we are at 89.4%. Students becoming eligible within the confines of the rules. That tells me that the principals have done their job and they know what they do. That reflects on the principals and individuals out there where actually Robert at one point was an athletic director, enforcing the rules, calling and asking questions to ensure that those rules are being enforced equitably, but also being enforced not equitably, but also consistently across the state of Louisiana. And as we stand here today, my office has processed 2,704 student transfers today. 23 students we couldn't get to a minimum standard. For those people that do stats, that's 99.1%. With the rules that the principals have put in place. And not just myself, but our director of Eligibility Center and in compliance, Ms. Renee Ballard, everybody that's been around among those, Renee. Ms. Karen Hoyt, my assistant executive director, and myself, we look at every single case. Those two sets of eyes out before it ever comes to my desk, and we sit every day and we go through each individual case. It's that one who didn't get eligible that seems to be the focus. And we try to do what we need to within the rules, and that's what we do. And if in this case, 23 we couldn't find the minimum standard for whatever reasons. But if you have looked in our handbook under the eligibility piece, that's the biggest part of our entire handbook is that eligibility portion. And we work it every day. We have 10 compliance officers, all ex-school administrators that go out and work with the schools. They are not the gotcha patrol. They're out there to ensure that paperwork is in order. So if there is something and there is an error or something there, we know about it now, not in week 5 and week 6, when all of a sudden we find that somebody shouldn't have been out there. And the rule says you shouldn't have been, and now there's forfeitures, which is the worst day of my life, to be honest with you. I mean, in my career, it's just not fun. It's just not fun. So when we go to do what we do every day, we ensure that the students come first. 401 principals, about 450 athletic directors, and that includes any parish that has a district level AD as well to oversee the schools within their parish. As I mentioned earlier, 10,000 coaches, almost 5,000 officials in all of our 16, 17 sanctioned sports across the state. And on any given day, any given night, someone's about to make a mistake. But I'm here to tell you, I do not have the authority to hire and fire coaches. I don't have the authority to hire and fire officials. We have acronyms that oversee those individuals, and they work inside the handbook that's been in place to oversee those individuals. Can we suspend an individual? Absolutely. But to do so, there's a process. It's not arbitrary, it's not capricious, it's in writing. And my job is to ensure that and I saw there's an attorney in the room, kind of, I feel sometimes I'm practicing law without a degree at times within there, but we have a good group that helps us to make sure we make the right decisions in the right time in the right place. That's what we do at the LHSAA. That's what I've tried to do in my decade plus here, and will continue to do as long as they have me. Do we have time for questions, or if anybody has any specific questions? Not before that. Okay, any questions for me while you have me here? Anything specific you'd like to know about, anything going on? This is where I usually get off the rails. Not hearing any, Mr. Anderson, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Any possibility of going back to the old way of state championships?
Great question, and I didn't plant that one. That's known as a split. Basketball, boys and girls basketball, football, baseball, all one happened before I got here, and you know how that went the first 18 months. And then now we've split the others. That was brought up in the presently the HCR 24, which is a legislative study that we're going through right now at the legislature. It has been brought up that the legislature would like to see us come back together. And it may end up being a position where we potentially could be asked to do that, and maybe in a legislative manner, as well as potentially making sure that every student has the choice and ability to go to any school they want to, anytime they want to, that they're leaving a public school can take money with them to go to a private school, and they get that one-time transfer. It's not just that a certain grade level, it would be any grade level. So theoretically, we can have students participating in schools they're not even in the attendance zone. Where they live, what they are, it's just a matter of them being able to get transportation to get there, and they can do so if that comes to fruition at this next legislative session. If the LHSAA doesn't pass, bringing everybody back together, and a one-time transfer rule that's basically ends up being a transfer portal. Yes, sir.
Get basic degree.
Is the reason still is there any mistake or reason
The first question was before my time, but I've had enough time to educate myself on it. At the end of the day, it was about the private schools have the abilities to draw students from anywhere they wanted to draw them to get them there. However that process would be in place, acceptance, whether there might be some tuition assistance, and it just rubbed the public schools in a manner that we can't do that. We have to take who we take within our parish, and those are the students we had to play with, and they felt there was an inequity and a competitive balance issue. As we watched it over time, we have so many different educational options now for student athletes, whether it be through charter schools, through open enrollment, through magnet schools, through whatever other educational option gives students to go to other schools, and that's all controlled by the parish. But in the grand scheme of things, whenever you are moving students around within your parish and giving them a chance to move around, what's the difference in that and what maybe you may have been accusing the private schools of doing earlier on? So the old adage, you point the finger at somebody, there's 3 pointing back at you. That's kind of where that came from, and now we have a definition of select that encompasses all of those groups. As I stand here today, at one point it was 75% was public, just regular public schools, regardless of what they did. 25% were the true private schools, like for example, St. Anne. Now we are 51% select, 49% true public schools. The old public schools, which you see more in your rural communities, where they don't have charters, they don't have magnets, they don't have open enrollment. You're raised right there, and that's who you have to participate with. Others are across the United States. I presently sit representing the SEC, those 8 states we have in Section 3 of the NFHS Board of Control. I sit on that board. This is my 4th year of a 4-year term. Of the states in the South, we have South Carolina, who has a private school association. In the SEC, but in Section 6 is Texas. They have the Texas Association of TAPS, Texas Association of Private Parochials. There's probably 4 or 5 other states, but nobody has what we have in place right now when it comes to separating the championships, unless they have specific leagues where we have them blended during the regular season, and then we separate them out in the sports that I mentioned earlier. Question, sir, and this will be the last one. Yeah.
Being a private association, does the legislature have the authority to pass a law that the schools all have to play together?
The disclaimer is I'm going to be practicing law without a degree, with a lawyer in the room, for whatever that's worth. Before my time, there was a lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court of Louisiana stating that they would identify them as a private entity. At the end of the day, to take and put the name of the LHSAA into law, The legislature does not have the authority to do that. But what they can do, from what I was told in this study and was told in a public meeting, and you can go back and research it, was that the legislature can state nobody in the state of Louisiana that receives MFP money, or basically state funding to run your schools, can belong to an association that does not have a one-time transfer rule, or is not participating in select, non-select, or split, whatever you want to call it. I think that might be the go-around, for lack of better words, but that's what is being told will potentially happen this session if we don't make the adjustments ourselves in January as a state association. Thank you so much.